Hello everyone, welcome to science class. Today, we're continuing our series on motion and measurement of distance with another important topic, measurement. Measurement is something we use every day, even if we don't always realize it. Have you ever tried to figure out how long your pencil is? Or maybe the size of your desk? Well, that's what measurement helps us with. Measurement is simply finding out the size, length, or amount of something. Why do we measure? We measure things to know how big or small, long or short, or even how full or empty they are. We use measurement in so many parts of life, like building houses, cooking, or even deciding which box to use to pack things. Let's break it down a bit. Measuring the size of an object or space involves three types of measurements. 1. Length or distance. 2. Area. And 3. Volume. Let's see one by one. Let's dive deeper into length and distance, two types of measurements we use often in daily life. Length tells us how long or tall something is. For example, we might measure the length of a pencil, a piece of rope, or even a table. To measure smaller objects, we might use centimeters or inches, and for larger objects, we might use meters or feet. Distance, on the other hand, usually tells us how far apart 2 points are, like the distance between your home and school, or between 2 cities. Because distances can be very long, we often use kilometers or miles to measure them. So, while length and distance are similar, distance often covers a larger space. The next measurements we'll learn about are area and volume, how much space an object covers and holds. When we want to know the amount of space something covers, like a book cover or your desk surface, we measure area. Area tells us how much surface space there is. And when we want to know how much space something can hold inside, like a water bottle or a container, we measure volume. Did you know that a long time ago, people didn't have rulers or measuring tapes? They used parts of their body to measure things. For example, they used the distance from their elbow to their fingertip, called a cubit, or the width of their hand, called a handspan. Another common measurement was a foot, based on the length of a person's foot, and a yard, which was roughly the distance from the nose to the tip of an outstretched arm. Did you know? King Henry I of England was the first to introduce the yard as a unit of measurement. The cubit is the oldest known formal measurement, used in ancient construction like the Egyptian pyramids. The NCERT, an ancient Roman unit from which the word inch is derived, dates back to the first millennium BC and influenced modern European measurement systems. But there was a problem with using hands or feet to measure. Everyone's hands and feet are not of the same size, right? They are of different sizes. This made measurements inaccurate. Imagine if your hand was bigger than your friend's. Your measurements would be different. So people realized they needed a better, more accurate way to measure things. That's why we now use standard units of measurement, which are the same for everyone and everywhere. This measurement system is called as SI, System of Units, or International System of Units. It was adopted in 1960 at General Conference of Weights and Measures in France. The most common units are part of the metric system, like meters for length and liters for volume. The metric system is based on the number 10, so it's very easy to use. In some countries, people also use inches and feet for length measurement, which are part of the imperial system. For length, we use the meter in the metric system. Smaller objects can be measured in centimeters or millimeters, while larger distances can be measured in kilometers. Here's a quick comparison. 10 millimeters equal 1 centimeter, 100 centimeters equal 1 meter, and 1,000 meters make up 1 kilometer. Next, we have mass, which tells us how heavy or light something is. The standard unit of mass in the metric system is the kilogram. For lighter objects, we use grams, while for heavier items, we use kilograms. So, what is the relationship between grams and kilograms? Well, 1,000 grams is equal to 1 kilogram. For time, the standard unit is the second, but we often use larger units like minutes, hours, days, and years to measure longer periods. For example, a minute has 60 seconds, and an hour has 60 minutes. Time helps us organize our day, schedule events, and even track history. Finally, temperature tells us how hot or cold something is. The standard unit for temperature is Kelvin. The other popular units for temperature are degrees Celsius and Fahrenheit. Temperature helps us understand different weathers, cook food at the right heat, and even decide what to wear. Let's quickly recap. Today we learned about measurement, from ancient methods like cubits and handspans to modern units like meters and grams. We learned that measurement helps us find the size, length, or distance in a reliable way. While ancient methods were interesting, they weren't always accurate, which is why we now use standard units everyone can trust. Now, a quick question. What unit would you use to measure the weight of an apple? A. Meters. B. Kilograms. C. Celsius. Take a moment to think. Thanks for watching. Get ready for our next exciting topics in the chapter.